Welcome to Professor Smith. Many of you already know him from the videos that we've done with him before. He's the masked man tonight because we can't really see him. It's not because he's trying to hide out, just because he doesn't have light to focus on him. But that's all right. You got the menorah in the background. That's all that we need. Professor Smith, can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Okay, well, we're going to talk about kidney. Well, it's a disease, really. It can be hereditary. It can be cause of things. We've got some friends here recently that have come down with some kidney problems, and Professor Smith has been dealing with it all his life. Why don't you tell me a little about that?
Well, both my brother and I, we were told at a very young age. I think I was 7 when my parents broke the news to me that the doctor said that I had a genetic illness and that it would lead to the complete failure of my kidneys. And they estimated the time that they would fail would be anywhere between 18 years of age to 20 years of age. And they said that unless we were to go on dialysis, which is essentially sort of a medical procedure that your blood goes through a machine, it cleans the blood and then puts it back in it. Unless I went through that, it would lead to death. And they were right, at least in regard to the timeline, because I lost my kidneys when I was around 18 and a half years of age, went on dialysis. I think my brother made it until he was 19, almost 20, before he had to go on dialysis. They claimed that it was a genetic disorder relative to a genetic, something missing in the genetic, or something altered, or some kind of protein that it all gets kind of technical, but
sure, it sounds like a genetic and something turned it on.
Yeah. Yeah, it could be. I've come to believe now, as I've said to other people, that it may very well have been as a result of vaccines, because we had a lot of them given to us when we were boys, and but be that as it may, whatever the cause is, I've had to struggle and to relearn a lot of things and learn new things about how to preserve, because my entire existence now was centered around trying to get some level of longevity out of my life in a situation to where life expectancy was cut much, much shorter than what the normal person could expect. And so
what are you now? You about 50? You 50 yet?
48 years old. 48, and which really I think has surpassed the life expectancy for all port. I have to look that up, but I'm like right on the end of it, or surpassed it.
Well, what happened then after you were 18 and you lost the use of those kidneys? I mean, obviously you've been doing something to stay alive all this time.
Yeah. What they did is they gave me 2 choices. They sat me down and they said, you've got 2 choices with dialysis. Option A is they will do a surgery and put a catheter in you that goes into this cavity called the peritoneum.
Right.
And you would have to cycle fluid in and out at least 3 or 4 times a day. And that's basically would keep you alive. And the next day you would start all over again, cycle fluid, bags of fluid in and out. Each exchange cycle took about 30 minutes, 35 minutes. And really it's now I've always been mystified why the doctor would describe this way, but he said it's considered the Cadillac of dialysis, but anybody who's been on dialysis knows it's anything but luxury.
Oh, I can't imagine that, because sounds like what's happening here is your peritoneal cavity is taking the place of your kidneys, and fluid is just going into the cavities around your organs.
Yeah, and it's I guess it removes toxins enough if you do it enough to where you can get by, you can survive. The other option, which I rejected, was hemodialysis, where that would require a surgery where they would put a permanent or quasi-permanent shunt into your vein somewhere sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
They might do it in the neck. Sometimes they'll do it in the arm. And then they would have, you would go into a dialysis clinic and they would sit you in a chair and stick these, I think they're like 12 gauge needles, what they call them. They're pretty good sized needles.
Yeah.
But they stick them in there and your blood goes out that line into a machine, gets cleaned, then comes in the other line. There's two of them, I think. And so it circulates and you're there for about, I think it was like 4 hours, I think, something like that. It's,
right.
It's quite a while. And but I tell you what, now I never had to experience that until my first, I did get let me back up. So I did the peritoneal dialysis for about 1.5 years, and we get this call. I was already on the list for transplant kidney. We get this call saying, "Hey, can you make it here?" It's like when you call, you have to tell them yes or no.
Mm-hmm.
If you tell them no, they go on to the next person, and who knows if you'll ever get another call again from the hospital saying, "Hey, we have a kidney for you." So, I was ready to go. I said yes, and I got the transplant. I think I was like,
what were you, 20?
Yeah, I think close to 20, yeah. And
you're 48 now.
I took a semester off from university when I did that, just to become adjusted. And so then that kidney, it rejected 5 weeks after I had it, and I was back in the hospital, almost lost it. And they hit me with all different kinds of drugs, try to knock it out of rejection. And they finally had this one last ditch effort to try to knock it out. And it's something called OKT3, which is a very powerful chemotherapy drug, as they explained it to me, something like that. I think I'm getting the name right. But that it did work. It just made me as sick. I mean, I feel very bad for people that have cancer that have to take chemotherapy because it makes you sick as a dog. I don't think I've ever been as sick as after having them put that chemotherapy drug in me. And but it did do the job. It knocked it out. But they said that there was scar tissue. They didn't expect the kidney to last, the summer. That's what the doctor told me. Well, the Almighty, it was miraculous. I mean, the Almighty kept me going for 16.5 years before I was looking at dialysis again. So that was basically a new lease on life for 16 years. Until the kidney ran out finally, and I was doing a lot of health things. I learned about some things to try to enhance the longevity of the kidney. One of the things that I came across was this book by Paul Bragg, who's kind of naturopathy specialist.
Yes, we know him.
He's now. But there's a book I came across that was called The Miracle of Fasting. And I read that book, and I have to say that revolutionized my entire outlook. I mean, the things that were in that book, I never heard from anybody. Nobody ever taught me anything like this. And it shocked me. I mean, the level of being someone who was dealing with serious life-threatening illness, I was very receptive to anything that would explain what I was going through and how I could perhaps alleviate my suffering. So I read that book, and one of the key things I got out of that book was, number one, your body has the capacity to heal itself, but fasting can enhance that. So I did end up fasting for 3 days, and which was kind of tough, by the way.
Sure.
But I got it done, and I did feel considerably better. I did a few other things. I radically changed my diet, and I would say that's the second thing I learned from him. The third thing I picked up out of that book is that this idea of water, how absolutely critical the right type of water is, and the kind of volume that's required to keep a kidney healthy. And now, some of the regular doctors, they dispute this point. So I will say this with a caveat: I'm not a physician, and you'll have to read his book yourself and see what you think. But I applied it to my life, and a kidney that the doctor said wouldn't last the summer ended up lasting 16 years. It was half gone, scar tissue.
Mm-hmm.
So it had to have been, I mean, I know the Almighty was in control of it all, but it had to have been that water, that distilled water. That's what it is, steam distilled water. And I actually got my own machine and started distilling my own water, got the charcoal filters. I got everything that was required, and I was distilling my own water for a lot of years. And I really do think that it increased the longevity of my kidney was very much enhanced by that.
It seems like when I first met you face to face, you had just come out of rehabilitation from a second kidney transplant. Is that the case?
Yeah, that one I had that was let's see here.
I'm thinking that was we got together in 13.
Yeah, it was 11. That's right, January of 11. And that kidney transplant went okay in a way. In other words, I didn't have a rejection, but what I did have is major complication where I found out later that there was 4 transplants happening that night down there in Charleston at MUSC, and they only had there's a specialized tool that they explained to me that's used to create enough room so that they can do the work. I don't know whether it opens the cavity or what it does, but it's a special tool. They only had 2, and they had 4 surgeries. So they had to, I guess I drew the short straw. Someone else did too, didn't have that tool. So when they put the kidney in, it damaged the pancreas to such a degree that it caused necrotizing pancreatitis. And I was in the kind of pain. I've never felt that kind of pain again in my life, the kind of pain that I felt. And they couldn't figure it out. That was the worst part of it. They couldn't figure out what was wrong until they finally realized. They got me into a specialist and said, "Oh, you've got a necrotized pancreas. If we don't do emergency surgery, you're going to die." And that's how close I was to death. And I got this really good doctor. The father was with me the whole way, and we were praying about this. Everybody was, I know. And she totally, she went in and did another major surgery 5 weeks after that second transplant, and they removed 80% of my pancreas. So I've only got a little sliver left, she said. And she said that I would have reoccurring sicknesses, but it should alleviate over the years. And true to her word, that's true. It has alleviated. I don't even have any more pancreas attacks now.
What kind of what kind of recovery does that take?
Well, I was in either rehab or hospitals for 6 months. I had tubes sticking out of my body with that were draining. They did several incisions to figure out where the infection was coming was from, and I've been through every test you can imagine, during that 6 months. But finally, they released me at the end of 6 months, and I still had those bags attached to me. And it was just a very slow recovery. But after I got the bags taken out, the kidney seemed to function well. And actually, it's functioning better this time around than my first time. And I have discovered some other things the second time around. Not only have I been very, very much, I will not be without the distilled water. I mean, I rely on that so much now. I don't even like to drink anything but distilled water, except maybe some unsweet tea here and there. I definitely stay away from dairy products, things like that are hard on your kidney. That's just basic stuff they'll teach you in a kidney unit, but I stay away from all that stuff. But the thing that I discovered was raw ginger root. And
Yeah.
yeah, what I do is I go, the father showed me this, and I was pretty desperate because I was having a lot of these pancreas attacks, and a pancreas attack lasted a good part of the night. And they gave me some very heavy pain medication for it. And they gave me something called Phenergan, which
Oh,
basically
yeah.
just knocked me out, and then I would be no good for the next 2 days. I was so exhausted. I might as well, as an invalid for the next 2 days practically anyway. So I was really desperate. I was asking the Father, please help me. At this point, I was so open to anything. And I've noticed that when you get desperate and you get more open to any possibility, that's when the answers come.
Yeah.
Because you're more open. You're more susceptible to the answers that come. So I basically I found out about this ginger. I got this ginger, and at first what I did is I peeled it and I just started chewing it, which by the way is not pleasant. When you first doing it, if you ever taken a chunk of ginger, it burns like mad.
Yes, I eat it.
In your mouth.
Yeah.
But I've taken it so often now to where if I were to do that today, there was hardly any burn at all. It's almost completely. Well, I found out that my body was so acidic. I needed that ginger to alkalinize, and also it helped to remove inflammation. And so one of the biggest problems with kidney illness is inflammation of the kidney and surrounding areas and the tissues. And so it lowers the inflammation. It also worked as an aid in pain. But the other thing that it did is made it so that my urine output was much, much better. The first time around, they made me take a water pill. I've never had to take a water pill the second time around because the ginger does it. And now this is the part, I don't think I've told you this yet, Jack, but I literally have documented proof. I have it on my labs of something that I can't quite explain yet, but literally, with a transplanted kidney, your function is supposed to, the name of the game is to make it decline as slowly as possible. Yes. But it's never been heard of for a kidney to improve, a transplanted kidney to improve. That's never been heard of. They would laugh at you if you said, is that possible? Or you were to say to a doctor, I think that's possible. They would laugh at you. Well, I've got this doctor that's very mystified because last year, my kidney number had slowly but steadily been improving over the last year.
Oh, that's amazing.
Okay. Now, I have to credit it. I mean, ultimately, the Father gets the credit because he's the one that showed me this. But I think the ginger is improving it and I've tried different ways. I've tried to chew it. Then I decided to chunk it up, put it in distilled water, shake it up, and then just drink it throughout the day. Then now my latest method, which I think is the most effective, is to peel it, chunk it up, put it in a bullet blender with distilled water.
Yes.
Get that thing blended up so that it's like a cloud. It's a white cloud, and then just drink that right down. And I do that once or twice a day as needed.
I remember when we were together last at Tabernacles, you carried around a gallon jug that was distilled water with ginger in it.
Yeah.
You gave me one of those, which I drank. It tastes good, actually.
Yeah, you get used to it. It actually is not bad. It's the hardest part is initially getting used to it. Like I said, that first time it really burned.
Mm-hmm.
But that also is an indication of how toxic your body is and how acidic your body is. So those and so of course I try to eat as close to. I'm not like Paul Neeson. You know what I'm talking about. I'm not anywhere near him. Now we do have a couple brothers who pretty much follow close to what Paul Neeson follows. We've got Brother Jeff here and then Brother Giacomo. They're vegans, and so they eat pretty much, it's a very strict plant-based diet.
Would you believe that I was Paul's first webmaster? Way back there.
Yeah, yeah. And
Oh, I
so,
just wanted to throw
I'll
that
eat
in.
meat. Say
Go
that
ahead.
again.
I just wanted to throw that in to show you my power. Go ahead and finish.
Well, um, let's see. Now I do eat meat, but I only eat clean meat. And I'll eat beef and I'll eat chicken, turkey, lamb. So of course, being that I observe the commandments, I keep clean. But the but I also am not. I mean, just there's certain things I absolutely stay away from. Things that I know will hurt the kidney function.
Like
And
what, for instance? Can you name
well,
a few?
I tell you, the biggest death of kidney function is they call it soda in the south. They call it pop in the north.
Sure. Carbonated water.
That will kill your kidney faster than you can. And even if you've got healthy kidneys, you're doing a lot of damage. Milk is hard for your kidneys to process. So I don't drink milk. I drink almond milk instead. That's
Mm-hmm.
much easier. That's plant based, much easier. And I drink a lot of water, probably a gallon of steam distilled water a day. And so between that and the diet, there's certain things like kratom. I take that kratom. I know you take that, Jack.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the kratom. It also acts as a diuretic in a way. Um, and so if I have a low day, because transplanted kidneys, they have problems with energy, they have problems with lethargy, because I've got this immunosuppressant medications I'm taking that causes energy drain. They've got me on at least one blood pressure medicine. I've got less than what I had last time around, but they've got me on that. And they've got me on a hormone. Every transplant has to have these things. They have to have immunosuppression so that your immune system doesn't kill the organ, and you have to have a hormone pill, which is prednisone normally. Now, it's interesting because of all this virus thing going on and all these transportation problems because of the rioting and all this hoopla that's going around the country. They cannot even get one of my immunosuppressant medicines. Now they can get the other one, but they can't. I'm not the only one in this boat. There's people that can't get this medicine. I've kind of over the years, whenever a prescription would come due, I would refill it a little early, so I've got a little saved up.
I do the same thing.
Yeah. So I'm okay for now, but I just hope that opens up. But the point being that transplant people still have to be on that medicine. I've looked so closely at natural health, I haven't found anything in the natural world that can take the place of that in order to preserve a transplanted kidney.
Well, we can't go by this idea that it's pharmakia. I mean, that's almost nutty. These things, if they help a person, I consider them to be God's blessings.
I've always believed in a mixed approach. There are certain things I have to rely on the doctors for. But the goal for me is to try to get off as much as possible. But if I can't find a natural replacement, I have to rely on the doctors and what they've given me, which I know is heresy in the natural health community. But they also haven't been born with a genetic illness like I have.
Right.
Or even if it's and I have yet to find someone who says that their kidneys were totally dead, they were on dialysis, and they were brought back by natural health. Maybe there is someone out there, maybe there's someone the Almighty just touched and it happened to, but you have to use wisdom and also be sensitive to the Spirit.
That's absolutely true. I wanted to give you a little testimony about the kratom because I take that every day, 24 hours a day for the problem I'm having. And I got two benefits from it. Like you said, that it's a diuretic. Yes, I need a diuretic. I am peeing all the time. But it's kind of a nuisance, but that's what person with my problem needs to do. And the second thing was I got off blood pressure medicine. This stuff brought my blood pressure down by
Yeah.
20 points and put me in the normal range again. That's amazing to me because I've had
Yeah.
quite high blood pressure all my life.
But there's also medicines you probably have not found replacements for. I'd expect
Oh
that you
yeah.
still take certain ones.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I still take statins because I have a hereditary problem with cholesterol. Nothing else will bring it down, but
Yeah.
statins work all right. I've not had any bad symptoms from them around. I've been taking them for 40 years, but that's primarily it right there is the statins.
Yeah. 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 Well, so that's those are most of the tricks I've discovered. Now there's two other books. Now this one book is this other book. Now the first book that people might want to make note of is The Miracle of Fasting by Paul
Yes,
Bragg. That's number one.
that's online, by the way.
Yeah. And the second one is, have you got the share thing on here? Is it activated?
Yeah, you can share.
Okay, let me see if I can pull it up real quick here. And this other one is, I think it's Alan E. Bannock. It's Dr. Alan E. I think it's Banik.
There he is.
Yeah. The choice is clear. That's witness number 2. Completely different guy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but people should read this if they've got kidney problems, because this is a good book. So that's the first one. Then here's what The Miracle of Fasting looks like. There it is. Miracle of Fasting. Okay, this is a great book. Read this. Also, I think Paul Bragg has another book on water. There it is. The Shocking Truth That Can Save Your Life. And I tell you what, it saved my life to read this book. I read this book too. But what got me onto this book was The Miracle of Fasting. And let's see, there's a third one, Dr. Alan E. Bannock, and there's, see if I can remember the name of that book. But basically, I had 3 main books I resorted to that talked about how important water is to kidney health. And if I come up with a third one, I'll.
Okay. Yeah, we can put it in the show notes.
You know. But that's essentially, those 2 books are important. And, you know, I listen to guys like Paul Neeson. I listen intently because everyone has wisdom they can share. Even if I can't apply all that or choose not to apply, it's like you have to eat the hay and spit out the straw.
Right. And that goes along with anything.
Yeah. But it's worth going through to listen to these guys because you're getting information that you can apply to your life and improve your life. So so now I've been on the second transplant for quite a while, 2011. And like I say, over the last year, it's been improving. My creatinine is almost to the normal range, almost. And so I don't know what the combination is. I'm taking that kratom and I'm taking that ginger. Very, very religious about the water. But I do take certain vitamins and things, but I don't think they're anything that would create this kind of outcome.
Sure.
Necessarily. Take a lot of B vitamins. Also, you have to watch heat, not to be in too much heat when you've got kidney weakness. You know.
Same with coronary artery disease. This heat just puts me away. I can't take it down here.
And when it's time to rest, you cannot act like you're the Hulk. You have to sit down and you have to rest. Because you only got one body. If that body is crying out for rest, you need to sit down and relax and get into the cool. So I've just learned those kinds of things over the years, basic common sense things along with these other things that I've learned. And my brother, he was on his second transplant. He had a heart attack, and he ended up passing away on my birthday, which is Isn't that something?
Yeah.
2 years ago, my mom and I were next to him in his sick bed in the hospital, and he passed away. And he's in the kingdom now. He's a believer. And
How long did he live before he passed away after that heart attack?
well, he was about 2 years younger than me.
Mm-hmm.
So a couple years ago, so 40, 46, 44, at the end of 43, so I'm close to 44. Um, and he was, he did a lot of things too. He did a lot of help things. He didn't do all the things that I did. He did different things. He did things like coffee enemas. I probably would never go that far. I don't know whether that helped him or what. But
well, if you ever do, make sure to tell me so we can talk about it on here. Coffee enemas.
But he had a wife who supported him in the health decisions. And I know that he ate careful, except he did not keep clean. Did not keep clean meat. I saw him with that swine flesh here and there. And
you don't want that.
Yeah. So, but he had this heart attack, and he was allowed to remain on the earth for a little while so that we could say goodbye to him. And he passed away peacefully. And he was a musician. He led the praise and music group in the church, and he never stopped going to my mom's church.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of the black sheep of the family. I broke away from the Free Methodist denominational teachings. Not all of them, but I started looking at Torah, started looking at Shabbat and all of that. That sort of gets into my spiritual journey. But I can't think of anything else that I could suggest to people with kidney failure or kidney weakness. I do know that you're going to have to use an incredible amount of discipline, because I had to go through stages of increasing discipline on stuff, because we grow up you're raised in an environment. We've got so much access to different things. People are used to drinking soda. People are raised to drink milk. I was raised to drink milk. You just have to recognize that you can still find happiness in eating, but you have to close off the doors on the things are going to hurt your kidney.
That's my problem. If you ever get a solution to that, let's talk about it. In the meantime, while I've got you on the line here, why don't you tell us about your present ministry some?
Well, we have a ministry here. We're meeting in a house. We're basically a house meeting ministry where we rotate to houses. And we meet every Sabbath, and we meet for the feast days. And you can find us at hmisrael.com. I can show you that one real quick here.
Okay, you're in Greenwood, South Carolina, right?
Yeah, hmisrael.com. We're in Greenwood. We're also in Abbeville. We've got a lot of materials that are available for people. The people like Hebrew and Aramaic. We're just starting Aramaic. And we've got Aramaic videos already posted, and a lot of Aramaic teach yourself books that I've got posted here. And also we've got this other Aramaic spot here, Green Spawn Aramaic. We're working on that right now with some students, and at some point I might do some videos. But we've got 4 principal men in our assembly that teach. I teach myself. Brother James teaches. He's in Waldron. He's got a lot of teachings available. We have Brother Chris. He's down there in Chapin. Brother Chris does these very special flutes and whistles by hand.
Oh, that's right.
Now, this guy you might want to interview, because when he gets to talking about sound and how sound affects the body and affects the spirit, this guy is a wealth of knowledge. But there he is in his workshop. He does these by hand. He ships them all over the world. So, but he's also a very good teacher, and he's got a YouTube channel here that people can go to check out. And then we also have Brother Jeff, he kind of is our watchman on the wall guy. He keeps track of all the events that are going on in the world. He lets us know what's coming down the pike with vaccines and the dangers thereof, and all of the totalitarian plans that people have in government, to control people, and he keeps track of that. And so there's a lot here that people can look at, and tells a little bit about us down here, who is facilitating stuff. And so that's the ministry.
That's hmisrael.com. Okay.
Or org. Either one will take you there. hmisrael.com or org. There it is there.
Great.
I'll highlight it.
Well, it sounds like you're going places, and I thank you for taking the time to have a little conference with me. I think the people that are subscribers to my show are going to really appreciate this, especially those that are dealing with kidney problems or with any health problem, because I think you put your finger on something here in regarding the water. I read that book years ago, and I hadn't thought of it. But I think Bragg's dead now. I think his daughter took over that ministry.
Yeah,
so
he was 90-some years old, and he was out surfing. And he slipped off the board. The board hit him, and he passed away. But here's a guy, I mean, he was a picture of health even into the 90s. It was doing something like, 90-year-olds, that are surfing on the ocean.
That's pretty amazing.
But if you read his book, he started out like me. That's kind of the thing that got me really interested in his book immediately, is because he told how he was diagnosed with an alleged incurable illness. And he just literally went back to basics. He just started eating nothing but raw, everything raw. And here he made it to 90. And he has health clinics all over the United States. He even showed up in front of Congress years and years ago when they were talking about water issues, and he was trying to get Congress to buy into his plan to put these huge distilleries on the coast and distill the salt water so that would provide drinking water all over the country.
Desalinization. Yeah, I kind of remember that. It was too expensive, I think, to do it according to them, but it's something that's going to have to be done anyway.
Yeah,
eventually.
And so he's got. I mean, there's a lot of information. So I would encourage people to read those books and just glean what you can from it. But if you got kidney problems, the doctors are correct to tell you that stay away from dairy, stay away from soda, especially cola, but don't even mess around with the non-cola stuff. If you really want to have longevity, you need to drink a lot of this distilled water. That's what I would recommend.
Thank you for the advice, and thank you for being on here.
Okay.
We'll catch you as a follow-up pretty soon. So I sure appreciate you coming. Thank you, Professor Smith.